Hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing part 2 of my palette review, and today we're going to go over what I consider to be my mid-size palettes. These are bigger than the small ones, but not like mega palettes or anything. And I have 5 palettes that I'm going to walk us through today, and hopefully I love them all by the end of it. I remember this last one, the first part that I did, I decided to declutter some matte shades in a Colourpop palette and consolidated those. So I'm technically like a palette down on that end, which I'm not mad about. If I can declutter through this, that's great. But in general, I feel like my palette collection is decent. Like I like all of the palettes that I have, but I'm open to changing my own mind. So without further ado, let's look at these 5 mid-size palettes. Starting with, try to do them by, let's be relatively by brand. And the first one is going to be the Colourpop Good Sport palette. I have actually like a love-hate relationship with this palette right now. I love it. I've always loved this palette. It's getting kind of old. I think I've had it since maybe 2017. It might be expired. I feel like at least the shimmers are. The last couple of times I've used it, it's irritated my eyes and it makes me sad because it was supposed to be my focus palette for this year. But it's just so much of a fall palette, so it's hard for, I don't want to reach for it during the spring or during the spring or the summer. So it hasn't gotten as much use as I would have liked, and I also feel like it might have gone bad and maybe I shouldn't use it. But until then, it's still a beautiful palette. It is one that I feel like checks a lot of boxes for me. The mattes are wonderful, the shimmers are great. It's a unique color story. I truly think that this is when Colourpop peaked, right in the beginning. No palette since then really has ever been as good of or unique of a color story as Good Sport, especially now, 2022 Colourpop, come on. It's like all of their palettes are very repetitive. They use a lot of the same shades. They're just recycling them. And they always are just so lackluster. They're never, sometimes you'll be excited about it, hearing about a launch, which they do every week. And then when they show you what it is, it's just kind of like, wah-wah. That's it? They could always be so much better. So I've said it once, I've said it a million times at this point in the last couple of videos, like my era of Colourpop is over. I feel like it just doesn't, it's not my bag anymore. So I'd be hard pressed to buy something from Colourpop again, unless it just really tickles my fancy. I never say never. So yeah, that's one. I consider that a mid-size palette. The Good Sport palette. Beautiful. Excuse me. So let's do some quick swatches. Take my watch off while I swatch. And I kind of like how I did it on my hand before, so I'm going to try that again. So from the top, we have Wild Out. This is actually like one of my favorite shimmers. I use this as a highlight, and it truly goes with every shade in this palette. If you wanted to do a matte shade and then top it with that shimmer, perfect, all you need. And then we have Hooky. Nice burnt orange. And then we have Rookie. This one is a shimmer an orange shimmer with like a blue purple reflect. I'm not sure if the camera will pick up on that. It's nice. I feel like it doesn't pack as much of a punch as it used to, but we have Sista, which is a very beautifully pigmented matte purple. Magenta, maybe. I think I could call that magenta. And then the second row we have Licious, which is a beautiful gold shimmer. And then we have High Hopes, a good neutral brown, tan. And then we have Reckless. This is like one, this is it's so dry. Like, I feel like this shadow in particular, while being very pigmented, is very, very dry and hard to work with, but it's like a deep plum. Very nice. And then we have Trooper, which is a wonderful yellow. Goldenrod yellow. And then the final row is Hooked, which is kind of a olivey shimmer, cool tone olive. And then we have Trophies, which is a darker, a very patchy one. I feel like, again, I don't know, man. I feel like this palette's just off. It's just not as easy to work with. Like, I'm building this one up. I shouldn't have to do that. But it's kind of like this army green olive. And then we have Ebb, which is like a, I don't know what you would call this, like a chartreuse. Very bright green. Beautiful. I'm just trying to extend all the colors so we can see them. Kind of. So that one was Ebb. And then the last one is Flow, which is a more muted version of Sista, I think. So that's it. That's that palette. And I just think it's so unique. I really don't have anything like this in a palette. I have a lot of shades like this, don't get me wrong. I have a lot of shades like this. But in this format, in this color combination, I do not have a lot of. And I am a palette person. I don't reach for singles. I'm not a singles person. So I would rather have a unique color story in a palette that I can pull from, rather than like building my own or picking out individual shadows. If I'm going to do a look, it's going to come from one palette for the most part. If I'm doing something kind of different or wild and unique, or, you know, more editorial, then maybe I pull from a couple of palettes, but for the most part, it's a single palette that I'm working from. So there's one. And then I have two Copacetic Cosmetics palettes. This is the Elysian palette. This was in collaboration with Basket Case Beauty / Lee. I'll put their handle in the description, but this was their palette that they made. And then this is the Streamside palette, which was in collaboration with Rocky Makeup / Lacey. And I love both of these palettes so much. This was the first palette that I've ever gotten from Copacetic Cosmetics. And it looks like this. Again, a very unique and beautiful palette. I've hit pan and that lime shade right there. And yeah, I truly love this palette. It's very unique. And we'll go ahead and swatch it. Do my other hand here. And I'm going to swatch these first and then try to decipher the names, because I always get them wrong. These are very soft, and like I'm having a hard time building up the first shade, but that's okay. When it's on a brush, I feel like it's different than finger swatches. Don't always believe finger swatches. I don't think those are always the best way to tell if a palette is good or not. And they have a unique formula called Flakies. So they're like shimmery glitteries, but they're flaky. So it's kind of better to tap on and build up versus just swiping them, but they're beautiful. Okay, hopefully I did these good enough, but I have to turn the palette over to look at the names. And I always get this wrong. I feel like this is how it goes. Okay, so we have Omniverse, which is this beautiful purple. And then we have Ethereal. And then this navy is Utopia. And then this is Pandora. this beautiful shimmer. This one was Pandora. The lime green is called Broken Dreams. This shimmer right here is called Hotaru, and it's one of my favorites. It's kind of like, again, kind of that glow-in-the-dark LED, I don't know, blue shimmer. And then the teal is Empath. And then we have another shimmer called Astral, which is another very shimmery, beautiful, opal-y kind of look. And then, I did it wrong, the wrong way. This one's called Spectral, this last one. Again, just a beautiful palette. I love this palette. I should probably order another one just to have it on hand, because I will be very sad if and when, or I should say when and if I ever pan it. But just it's just a beautiful palette. Please don't judge it on my awful swatches, but it truly is amazing. And I'm honestly not going to swatch the last two palettes I have, but we'll talk about it. Anyway, this is the Streamside palette, and this is the one that was made with Lacey slash at Rocky Makeup. And it looks like that on the inside. That's why I love these ones. Like, I'm not a huge indie person. I don't have a lot of indie brand makeup, but I just think these are so unique, and I truly just don't have anything like them with the formulas, the color stories and stuff. It's very unique, and I'm so happy to support my friends on Instagram. If you haven't checked out Copacetic Cosmetics, I highly recommend. These are the only two palettes I have from Copacetic Cosmetics. It's all I need to know that they are a great company. They do amazing collaborations, and they have amazing products. The quality is great. Would recommend. So, I'm going to swatch all these first, and then I will show them to you. But I'm going to do it like this so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so hopefully we can see all these. But we've got Sunfish, which is a flaky kind of metallic shimmer. We have Limna, which is this wonderful like earthy green. And then we have Riffle, which is this blue. And then Run, which is a lighter blue. Unionoid, which is another amazing like flaky, crystal-y. You can see it on my tattoo how it's kind of really textury. That's what I mean by flaky. The yellow is Spatterdock. This wonderful silver, shiny silver, is Darterfish. I'm sorry, Darter. And this green is called Spirodella, and this green makes me think of Christmas trees and Christmas. And then the cool tone mauve is called Pool. And those are the shades from the Streamside palette by Rocky Makeup. Again, one of my favorite palettes. I love it because it's colorful, it's pretty. These flaky shimmers are just very unique to my collection, and I enjoy them. You just like really tap them on, and you can build it up for a really intense metallic look, or just like have a little smattering of them. I think they're great. Copacetic Cosmetics, would recommend, highly recommend. I actually have another collab coming soon, and I will be doing a first impressions and probably 3 looks 1 palette with it, so stay tuned for that. And then my final two, aside from like just being out of arm space, I'm not going to swatch these because they're just neutral palettes, and I'm just bad at swatching, so I kind of also feel like I just don't want to. But these are the Viseart neutral palettes. This is Viseart Neutral Matte, and this one's also Neutral Matte. I call this one number 1. I call this one Neutral Matte 1, and this one Neutral Matte 2. I was gifted both of these by a friend. Very grateful for them. These look like just very unassuming neutral palettes. But let me tell you what, these blend like a dream. These layer amazingly. I am always impressed when I use these palettes. I love that they're all matte. It's a perfect take it on a vacation or a trip with you. It's all you need. If you like matte looks, if you're not super into shimmers or anything, that's why I like them. I feel like you can do a lot with just mattes. Make smoky shadow or smoky liner, do an all over wash, build the color up. But these are very unassumingly amazing palettes, and I'm very grateful that my friends sent them to me, because I probably never would have bought them for myself. I don't think I ever would have looked at these and been like, oh, I must have these, right? But now that knowing the quality of them, I probably would get more of these should I have the opportunity, the need, and the chance and desire. But until then, I will happily use these ones. I like this one because it has slightly more color to it, but honestly, this one's like perfect because it's a neutral palette in that it's not warm, it's not too cool. You have a little bit of both, as well as straight neutral ones, and then you have this like really nice black that is nice to, like, again, make a liner with or darken and deepen things up. So this is a really good, like, all-in-one palette, I think. If I took this traveling, it's all I would need. Maybe use my highlighter to add shimmer to it if I really wanted to. But if you know me at all by now, you know that I love a good matte moment. So these are perfect. I adore them. So I don't know if I would recommend them because I do think they're kind of pricey, but the quality is great. They layer well, they blend easily, they blend together well. I feel like they're pretty sturdy for being kind of cheap feeling packaging. Like, I feel like these are like 60 bucks, maybe less than that. I don't really know. I feel like they're not cheap though. They look cheap, but they do not perform cheap. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. So those were the 5 palettes that I have that I consider mid-size. So these are just small enough to travel with, but they're not huge mega palettes and they're not tiny. So the 2 Viseart neutral palettes, the 2 Copacetic Cosmetics palettes, Streamside palette and the Elysian palette, and the Colourpop Good Sport palette, which, tell ya, I'm not feeling the most love for right now. I'm not gonna declutter it. I think it's just a fall palette for me. Like, come September and October, I'm gonna love this palette again. But right now, it's just not my fave. I'm just not feeling it. So that was part 2 of my palette reviews. Stay tuned for the next 2, which I'll have 2 more categories. Big palettes, and then what I call long palettes. I'll let you figure out what those, let your imagination go wild with what I mean by long palettes. It's not that hard. But until then, I will see you next time. If you haven't done so already, like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz, and I will see you in the next one.